Have you ever set out on a website or interface design project and wind up buried under hundreds of screens? Or do your website prototypes just grow out of control and overwhelm your clients? This is how you solve those problems. This episode is sponsored by Framer X, and today we are talking about design systems, specifically Atomic Design 101. In the past few years, we have seen tremendous improvement in screen and interface design tools. Designing for screens has never been easier. But because it's so easy now, we've seen our prototypes grow to be extremely unwieldy. We're talking like 50, 100, 150 pages that are designed, usually by multiple designers, sometimes across different countries and time zones. This means we spend a lot of time establishing standards and quality checking everybody's work, and this significantly drains the creative directors and art directors' times. So we started using things like page templates and UI style guides, which, those things helped, but it wasn't the easiest to actually translate those things into design or maintain consistency. But last year, I found out about the concept of design systems. Now, design systems are just series of components that can be reused in different combinations. Basically, it's building blocks. Now, this made a lot of sense because our designers were using the same basic elements over and over and over again for the same project. But this whole concept about design systems didn't immediately click until I stumbled upon Brad Frost's TED Talk about his concept, atomic design. Could not believe this. Listen, today I want to share the basics of building an atomic design system for a project. So here's what we're going to cover. Part 1 is all about the atomic structure. Part 2 is how we start an atomic design project. And part 3 is how we collaborate using atomic design libraries. So part 1, let's talk about the atomic design structure. Like I said before, atomic design is a series of visual building blocks that start out really basic and become more complex as you move up the food chain. These visual building blocks are organized by complexity into different buckets. And the buckets are atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages. Let's talk about atoms first. Now, atoms are our most basic building blocks. These are things like colors and heading typography and body text. But there are also things like buttons and form labels and form inputs. Now, for those of you who don't speak the web design language yet, form labels, it's just the title of the form field that gives you instructions on what to put inside that field. So if it's something for your name, it'll say name. That's a form label. Here's a note about atoms. So usually UI style guides stop here. And the gap between these small atoms like buttons and form labels all the way to fully fleshed out page designs, this is the gap that we were struggling to bridge when we operated with just style guides alone. All right, let's get into molecules. Molecules are groups of atoms that work together to form a functional unit that performs a specific action or represents a purpose. These are things like a contact form, a team member listing, or an individual course card. So we're continuing to move up the food chain, and we're now at organisms. Organisms are groups of molecules that are organized by importance, type, or purpose. Think of these as pieces and parts of the overall page. These include features like course listings, the entire website footer, and the related blog post section at the end of a blog post. And at the top of the food chain, we have templates and pages. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory, but pages and templates give structure to multiple organisms. In the end, we typically make high-fidelity page templates that are filled with either placeholder or actual content for our clients. Common templates that we design are things like homepage templates, blog post templates, product pages, the login or register page, and the contact page. So guys, that is the basics of how an atomic design library is structured. You've got atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages. Now, let's talk about how we start an atomic design process. Atomic design is not meant to be linear. This means we don't expect you to start creating atoms right away. How dreadful and boring would that be forcing yourself to pick colors and pick button stylings before you ever get into that page design flow, making button after button after button. No. Instead, we start by designing a page or two, or 3. And then we do variations of pages. Sometimes we'll explore 10 to 20 ways to design something as simple as a home page or a product page. And we do this before we even start thinking about our atomic design system. Now, once we're finished with the page design and we're happy with the way that it looks, then we start looking for patterns. Things like, what do the buttons look like? Boom! Atom. What do the subscribe forms look like? Boom! Molecule. What does the site header look like? Boom! Organism. And we already kind of designed the page. Boom! Pages. So after we identify these patterns, we start extracting the individual elements, we standardize them, and then we start adding each element to its own library as a reusable component. What's even better than that, pro tip, is to build each component using smaller components. Now, if you're using a modern screen design tool like Framer X, you can link these reusable components together in wonderful ways. Now, I don't have time to get into a detailed tutorial here, but here's an example. So I just designed this course list page in Framer X. Then I pulled a button, some heading text, and some body text into our atoms library. Super easy. Using that as a reusable component, we can recreate the entire organism of the block of courses. Now, finally, now that we have this reusable component, we can replace the organism in the original designed version. Here's where the magic happens. So let's say we want to change the layout on every single instance of our course card. Now, before implementing atomic design, some poor intern would have to go through every single one and edit each version. No more. We'll just navigate to our atoms and molecules, change things up, and then head back to our original page design. As you can see, every single instance has been updated. Magic. But honestly, guys, the real magic in atomic design is the way that we can collaborate with each other on a single project. So this is part 3. Collaboration. Because we continually update our libraries with the newest variations of all these reusable components, any changes that we make are reflected in everyone else's work. And not only that, we can onboard a new designer really quickly onto a project since the library has already been established. They basically have an entire palette to paint from. So Framer X has made this process really easy with their new feature called the Private Team Store. It gives you the exact control that you need over your components while allowing your team the flexibility to edit the specific instances of those atoms, molecules, and organisms. You can also cheat a little bit. You can actually shop for other people's components in their public store. Super useful for things like icons, interactive components, and UI kits that you can pull into your projects. Guys, this is such a deep well. I have so much more that I want to talk about with design systems, but here's what we covered today. We talked about the atomic design structure. We talked about how we start atomic design projects and how we use atomic design libraries to collaborate. Now, if you're interested in learning more, definitely check out Brad Frost's manifesto. That link is below, but I have a question for you. Do you guys want to know more about design systems and atomic design? Let me know in the comments section below. So here's a few ideas that I had. We could do a video about a deeper dive into the atomic structure, and I can show you an actual project in use. We could also talk about getting client approval on the design system instead of a prototype. I could tell you how to sell an atomic design project, and I could also critique your design systems. And I'd also love to interview some product designers who do this on a regular basis. So let me know what you want to see in the comments section below. Special thanks to Framer X for sponsoring this video. Framer X brings the power of interactive design to everyone. You can wireframe, design screens, create seamless page transitions, and add powerful interactions all on the same canvas. There's also an in-app store where you can find components for practically anything, from buttons and icons to media players and UI kits. Just download and drag anything onto your screen. It all works out of the box. It's a great design tool for both client projects and product teams. You guys should definitely give Framer X a try. It's free for the first 2 weeks. And then afterwards, it's as little as $12 a month. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. As always, I want you to go out there and crush it. You got this. Like, subscribe. We love you. Goodbye.